My name is Thorsten Overgaard. I'm a Danish photographer. I travel the world and taking photographs and teaching. Today I want to show you the Leica M-D 262 camera, the one without the screen. So this Leica is the first one since the film Leicas that doesn't have a screen. Instead it just have an ISO dial here. And if you look at a normal digital Leica, you can see this is the difference. And when I got this camera, one of the first things I really appreciate and one of the things I really still like is just the feeling of having my thumb here. This feeling of simplicity is simply unique, and I can't explain it, but that's what I really like about it. When they removed the screen, they also raised the price $600. So you get this model with screen, it costs $600 less. And that's somehow very Leica, because if you have seen the Leica monochrome camera, then you know that it costs about $1,000 extra to only have black and white and not have color. Whereas you could say, if you can talk about nice prices of Leicas, then the M240 here with a screen and color and black and white at the same time, that's the cheap camera. As a point of simplicity, then if you imagine that you remove the screen of a Nikon camera, then you don't have a screen, and with most cameras today you actually can't control the camera if there's no screen. So that's one thing that makes it really interesting that Leica makes a camera with no screen, is that it actually works. Because the simplicity of a Leica has been for almost 100 years that you have all the controls on the outside. So you have the light control, you have the aperture here, you simply change here. You have the focus, you change manually. And here you have the shutter time that you also change manually. So what you need? Well, you need just the ISO, and here it is. So you actually don't miss the screen. And I don't think any other camera manufacturer could make a camera without a screen that would actually work and will still be basically the same camera, but just simpler. And simplicity is, I think, the game it is for me. I asked on my Facebook user group for Leica users, when the next Leica M comes out, what is the main feature that you want in that camera? And the number one feature is simplicity. And that is actually what this camera is about. And it seems a little bit stupid to take off the screen, but once you get into it and you use it, it makes completely sense. So what's the point in having a Leica without a screen? I actually don't know. I know that I tried this Leica M-D 262 in Wetzlar when I was there to get some other equipment adjusted. So I tried the camera for half an hour and I really liked it. But I also said to myself, I don't really need this camera. Then I was in LA for some weeks and I was sitting, I was looking out at all this sunshine and this big city, and I didn't really feel inspired to go out there and photograph. But at the same time also the M-D 262 came up in my mind, and again I was like, should I get it? I was like, no, I don't need it. And also everybody knows that very soon there's going to be a new Leica M model. So this is quite late in the production cycle to come out with a new camera without a screen. But then I looked out at the city and I thought, if I had this M-D 262, I would actually go out and that would be really fun. And that's when I ordered one. So next day I went out to photograph for a whole day with my workshop. So we were walking around LA, and that day of course I chose to use the M-D 262 and just one lens. And when I came back that day after dinner, I had absolutely no idea what I had taken photos of. And that is really new to me. But normally I would say if I use the M240 with the screen, I normally don't look at the screen. But I must look at the screen from time to time or just get a glimpse of what I'm doing, because if I shoot with this a whole day, I actually have an idea what I did. With this one, it was completely black. I had no recollection, no idea, no pictures of what I did till I got it to the computer. And that was a very new feeling. I thought 70% of this is going to be wrong exposure, wrong something, because I'm blinded, I cannot see anything. So I import the pictures and I'm really surprised. It's just like getting films back from the lab in the old days, that you would put all the rolls of film on the light table, and you will look at them like, wow, I don't remember I did this one. Wow, this one became really good, and this one, okay, that wasn't good. Wow, this is amazing. I had the same feeling with this one, except I didn't have to drive down to the lab and drop off the rolls of film and go back and pick them up next day. I could simply just take out the memory card here, put it in the computer, and then I could see the pictures immediately. But the feeling was exactly the same. I had no idea what I had taken, and it just made life much easier compared to a film camera. But the feeling was the same. And sometimes I have things I have to do where I need to check the pictures. And if I do an important shoot, I will normally just bring like 2 M's, and often I'll put the EVF on one of them, so at least 50% of what I'm doing is going to be right in terms of like if the focus have changed or something has gone wrong, then I actually can check it while I'm doing it. So one of my first thoughts with the M-D was that they should, if they made this one so I could actually put on the EVF here, you can see it doesn't have a plug for it, it doesn't fit at all. But if they had put this on, that would actually make it ideal. So when I need this, I could put it on. But after a few days I used this camera, I was like, no, I actually don't want to see anything. I don't want to cheat. I just want to be completely not knowing what I'm doing. I also thought about, I could cheat. I could put in the Wi-Fi card here, because it would actually could go to my iPad or my phone and I could see the pictures immediately. But even that, I haven't put this one in. I just don't want to see anything, because that is the whole point with it, the simplicity of the camera. And one more point on simplicity is that you can tell in many ways this camera is built exactly like the M240, it's the same shape and everything, and even the buttons here. So even this button they could remove, and also the wheel here, but they kept it just because it's from this model. But in reality, you don't need it in this one. And it's almost, the more you use this one, the more simple you want it, and you start looking at what could we take off, what do I don't need of this camera. And this button would be one of them. What it does is that when you press this button down and turn the wheel at the same time, you can adjust the exposure. But you don't need that in a Leica, because you have the shutter speed here. And then the other function the silver button has, that is the video button on the M240, is that when you press this down, you can see how much battery is left. So that means you don't need that either. So skip this one, skip this one. And next point of simplicity would be, could they make it thinner, the camera, when they don't have to have the screen? I don't know how much this dial fills up, and I don't know how thick the sensor is, but I'm pretty sure the technology is now so you could maybe even make this as thin as the film Leica that everybody basically wants. So that's some of the things that you could even remove that. This could be the film Leica, but with a digital sensor in it. That's basically the feeling I have about it. So that's my overview of this camera. Let's just look at a few specific things, because you probably have questions like, how does this thing work and what is this? We have the Leica lens here, and they all have manual aperture that you turn here, and they all have manual focus. So that is entirely the same. This thing you have here is the frame selector they put back again. They took it off, and then now they put it back again. And this is one of the things that nobody really uses, but it looks really nice on the camera. So I guess that's why they put it back. And what the frame selector does is that when you can, there's 3 settings, and it just gives 3 different sets of frame lines inside the viewfinder. So when you look through the viewfinder, you can change this one and see how would it look if I put on a 90mm. And as I said, nobody ever does that. Maybe 2% of the Leica users ever use this one, but that's what it's for. This one is the bayonet, that's the one to remove the lens. And then we get into some of the parts that most people never looked at. One thing is here is the 6-bit code, and that reads the bit code on the lens, so it tells the camera which lens is it. That's basically all it does. With the MD262, that becomes really important, because you cannot tell the camera what lens it is. In the M240, you can go in the menu and tell what lens it is. In this one, you can't. And then you have here the focus mechanism. That controls the rangefinder here, so you can focus. And you have down here, you have the 3 small eyes, that is the light meter, that reflects the light of those stripes on the shutter curtain. And that thing with the stripes on it, that is the shutter curtain, so the moment it goes up here, that's when you can see the sensor. And By the way, people have also talked about that the sound of this camera is more quiet than the M240. I think it's more or less exactly the same. It's not much different. Then you have up here, you have the shutter release, and you have here 3 settings: off, single, continuous, and then you can put on the self timer if you want to take a selfie in the old style. And then you have here that used to be the video button, and now it's just one you can press down. You can turn the wheel here, so you can change the exposure. And I wouldn't do that. I would always use the shutter release, or not the shutter release, the shutter speed here, that you can set here on top of the camera. Then you have the hot shoe here that is for the flash. And nobody really uses flash on a Leica, but they still have it. And then you have one beautiful little feature I like on this one is that you don't see any electronics or anything on this camera, but the moment you take a picture, then you see this red lamp turn on here that is hidden in the letter. And that's also when you turn on the camera, it will just blink a little bit so you can see the camera is working. And then you have underneath the camera, when you take this off, you of course have here for a tripod if you want to put on a tripod. And you have the battery here. This is enough to last for 2 or 3 days with a camera without a screen and without light view. And then you have the SD card here. And then you have an interesting plastic thing here that you wonder what is that. That is actually the plug that used to be on the M240s you can put on a hand grip, this one. So they just covered it with a piece of plastic on this one. And that's one more thing that tells you also that this camera wasn't redesigned to be without a screen. It's basically just the M240 that was changed a little bit to not have a screen. And then you have one interesting little detail here, this little piece of magnet. And that's the one that tells the camera if the bottom plate is on and off. If the bottom plate is not on a Leica, you cannot shoot anything. So that means if you lose the bottom plate or just the magnet, then you can't do anything. And of course there is the ISO dial here, and that is actually really stiff, so it doesn't move by itself. It seems pretty sturdy. And it's surprising how nice it is that you walk into a cafe or a store and you can just change the ISO like this, and when you walk out again you can change it back really quick. You don't have to go into a menu. And there's one little detail here, it says made in Germany, and even lots of Leica is made elsewhere than Germany, and some of the Leica is made in the Leica factory in Portugal. Then the rule is actually that a camera to be called made in Germany, 82% of the camera have to be made in Germany. So I don't know how exactly that is, but that means that if you have any idea that this was made in Japan or somewhere else, it isn't. It is actually made in Germany. Okay, so who is this camera for? Well, I don't really know. I think that if you think about this camera and you just can't let the idea go, then it's probably for you. And normally I tell people the way to choose equipment is not to compare specifications and resale value. It's just you look at what cameras are available and which one is going to make you most happy. And if this is the one, then this is the camera for you. And that's the only way it makes sense. You could say this between a film Leica, but with a digital sensor and an SD card, and then any other camera or Leica that can do video and digital and everything and have all the features. This is just extremely simple, and I think that's what appeals to most people is the simplicity. So that was my Leica M-D 262 talk. Go to my website, overgaard.dk. There's going to be samples you can download and use or play with on your computer. And also, if you're really smart, sign up for my mailing list and you get my free ebook. Thank you.